Generations of farming are under threat as saltwater invades Delmarva's farmland, turning fertile fields into marshes and costing farmers millions.
Coast TV News meteorologist Alex Seymour explores the impact of the salty challenge and the community's response to a changing agricultural landscape.
This field is under siege as the sea tries to take over Mark Wells' 9th generation farm.
When you see parts of your farm disappear to saltwater intrusion that you have no control over stopping, it hurts.
This sentiment is one shared by farmers across Delmarva, as we can see areas impacted by this intrusion, highlighted by areas shaded in purple on these maps. Pinky Mondale, who studies this phenomenon, says this mainly happens in two ways.
Through our groundwater reservoir, where salt water will mix with fresh water, and when we irrigate, we extract that groundwater, it will leave a mark on our soil. But more and more, we are seeing very powerful coastal storms bringing salt water onto our farmlands.
Saltwater intrusion is estimated to be costing Delmarva farmers tens of millions of dollars each and every year. Some farms have suffered total losses as over 20,000 acres of Delmarva farmland has changed over to marsh just in the last decade. In Delaware, one of the hardest hit areas is in the Prime Hook area where Mark Wells farms. A series of storms in the late 2000s and early 2010s caused a major dune breach at Fowler Beach that flooded a freshwater marsh with saltwater, fast-tracking this growing problem.
We would have saltwater backing up into the farms 6 to 7 times a year.
The dune breach was repaired in the early 2010s, but the damage had already been done. Around 175 acres, which is between 11 to 12% of Wells' farmland, had been damaged. Mark does his best to mitigate the issues, but it's no easy process.
Some of the farms, we have rotated crops, to something that is more salt tolerant. We've looked for different corn varieties and different, we planted some sorghum on some farms, and it's a little bit more salt tolerant than say soybeans are. But some of it is like the moon.
We're on one of Mark Wells' farms right along Slaughter Beach Road. It's right next to the Prime Hook National Wildlife Refuge. And here on this farm, we can see some of the worst impacts of that saltwater intrusion, as right beside me, we have actually invasive Phragmites, which is a saltwater marsh plant growing right alongside corn stalks. What that means is the ground right underneath of me, not really usable for growing that corn any longer.
None of us would, prefer to see this happening to our beloved, agricultural farmlands. But what do you do when it's already too late to take any action? It really depends on where we are in the spectrum of change.
Planting native salt marsh species that can, in the end, act as a barrier to protect the rest of the farmland from more saltwater intrusion could be one solution to this ever-growing problem. But Mondale says it is up to the farmers and other decision makers to ultimately decide what options are right for them going forward. I'm meteorologist Alex Seymour, Coast TV News.
And this brings us into our Coast TV poll this evening. We want to know what your view is on saltwater intrusion. I know I feel more educated now after that last story.
Let's take a look at the updated results. Look at your screen. So far, a majority say it needs immediate action. That is a large majority here. The threat to agriculture and climate change do have a decent chunk of the vote.
Easy to get involved in this vote. If you want to do it, go to coasttv.com or use the Coast TV mobile app.